Thank you, Brenda. And many of you know that you've watched me walking around with this little thing on my foot and being on my knee scooter and being a little bit of a hobbler, someone walking around with various impediments and various assistive devices for the last 12 weeks. It's because I spent my life as a youth not only fly fishing and playing tennis, but doing a lot of rock climbing. And one thing about rock climbing is, in order to climb well, in those days, it was in its neophyte days, there was only one company that made shoes. To climb well, you had to fit these shoes, and in order to fit them, you just bought them really, really small. And if you wanted to climb better, you got them even smaller. So I spent weeks on end doing that. I knew over time it would eventually catch up with me. This is a bunion. It's actually a foot deformity where this bone has actually slid off to the left. It makes a little bump. People think you can just shave it down, but no, it's actually a deformity of the bones of your feet. This actually brings us to the particular topic I wanted to address today. I was supposed to develop a proposal. I wasn't excited about dollars and cents kind of proposal. But I thought, why not make a proposal that I'm not really proposing, but it would be kind of something that I would do kind of tongue-in-cheek. So I'm going to educate you first on the biomechanics of gait and the epidemic of foot deformities and what we can do about it. So a lot of my early career when I was at Stanford and at Arizona State University was studying human walking. We would fix markers to the body. We would put little motion tracking devices on, and we would look at all kinds of things, different types of motions of the joints that determined how people walked. I was trying to get paraplegics walking again, but people have studied this as way back as the 1950s. A group in the University of California, Berkeley, determined that there were 6 determinants of gait, which were characteristics of everybody who walks. They call these the determinants of human walking. For example, if you put little markers on people, you notice that if the markers near the center of the body here were actually fluctuating up and down in a smooth path, whereas these markers down near the feet were going through very abrupt, jerky motions. One of the things about these 6 determinants was there was an overall principle at stake. And the 6 determinants were working together in order to increase and shorten the leg length as our body's center of mass moves over our leg that we're standing on at the time. And then when you move to the other leg, there's a smooth transition of motion for that body center of mass. They conspire to keep the center of mass moving in a level path with very little up and down motion, very little side-to-side motion, and very few quick starts and stops. For example, if you did the opposite and you walked like this, like you were walking on a peg leg, you would have abrupt stops at the ends of the motion because your center of mass, with your leg not bending as you're putting weight on it, your center of mass would go through a series of arcs like that. And then when you hit the end of the arc, you would have to accelerate it upward, expend energy, and it would also shock your body. So these 6 determinants are things like pelvic rotation. That's rotation like this. I'm exaggerating. Pelvic list is letting your body go down to the side. Okay? Knee flexion and stance is this. And the like. So here's a principle for you. Now that you know about the 6 determinants of human gait, there's a principle. If you lose one of those determinants of gait, you can make up for it with the other 5. So for example, if I were to take a high-heeled shoe like this with a nice 5 or 6 inch spike heel, what I've done is I've removed my ability of my foot and ankle to extend my foot. And it also affects your push-off. By removing the foot and ankle interactions, it means that the other 5 determinants of gait have to make up for that. So for example, pelvic rotation increases when you're walking on your tiptoes. The lateral sway of your hips increases. What are you left with? you're left with that familiar catwalk gait, where there's a little more body rotation, more shoulder rotation, the pelvis moves more, your body actually undulates sideways. Combine that with a beautiful woman, a long dress, the effect is absolutely mesmerizing. And I would encourage you, go back and look at a video of that to remind yourself what that was like. There was not, everybody went silent in the house that I was watching it in. Okay, but let's look at what cost does this come with. Okay, biomechanically, the body weight is pushing down. It turns out that when you land on your foot and push off, you're actually exerting 1.5 times your body weight on the ground. So you have 1.5 times your body weight pushing down from your ankle, 1.5 times your body weight pushing up from the bottom. This is an inclined plane. Your foot slides down toward the front. What happens? Because your foot is shaped like this, but it's trying to, go into this little confined pointy toe shape, you get these forces that are pushing the toes over. Supermodels, actresses, people that have to wear a lot of high-heeled, pointy-toed shoes all the time suffer the consequences. What I suggest is that, I should go back, but all these actresses have varying degrees of bunions. I think Michelle Yeoh's is the worst. You can just see the foot deformity there. In Europe, they can get away with really outrageous labels. I suggest we do something like that here. In America, we could probably get away with something like this. Warning, this shoe does not comply with bunion-safe footwear standards. Extensive uses will cause foot deformation. I also believe we should start requiring and making voluntary standards for footwear manufacturers to abide by, like we do in trampolines, protective headgear. Just about every industry that manufactures devices has standards to abide by. In the future, what will we address? I think we should get back to rock climbing shoes. And the foot deformities you see in ballet are horrendous. Look them up sometime. Thank you very much.